let's see, I guess I don't know all of you. So just to introduce myself for a moment, my name's Mark. I'm the tech support leader at WLLO Village. And I actually have a little bit of training in this. My career was, more than half of my career was in the digital space, electronic health records space. I've also had a career as a doctor, so I may use some doctor terms along the way. Don't let that throw you. How big is this problem? And it's growing. The estimates were that in 2020, it was about $113 billion in financial losses to seniors. This is not the, sorry, let me get rid of some of these messages here. This was in 2020 and it's growing every year. This isn't the entire scam universe. This is just people 60 years of age and older. So we're a target. We're a favorite target. And indications are that somewhere between 5 and 25% of us are affected by one of these scams annually. The good news is we're in Oregon and not Oklahoma. For some reason, Oklahoma has the highest percentage of seniors affected by scams, but we're not in the lowest group either. So I think it's really important that we're going to talk about this. All right. So the recipe for an online scam has 2 ingredients. The first ingredient is that we as seniors sometimes have kind of limited familiarity with technology. And that technology, and I'm talking about emails and websites and that has vulnerabilities, not our fault. There are design defects in our email, in our internet, which allow people to spoof or fake things. So it begins with that technical weakness and our limited knowledge. So we're going to fix that today. We're going to fix this limited technical knowledge. But the other ingredient for an online scam is one or more of these universal human qualities, wanting to be connected, inherently trusting other humans, compassion and kindness, respect for authority, and an inherent need for safety and security. And the point is not to crush. I'm not going to say don't trust anyone and don't respect authority. We want to preserve the human qualities, but protect them by understanding these vulnerabilities. Okay. Now, let's start by learning those tech vulnerabilities. And there's really 4 of them. And I'll use the term spoofs. Sometimes I say fake or spoof. The tech people like to use the term spoof. The first is that caller ID can be faked. You cannot trust it. The little box on your landline phone and your smartphone that may show a name or a picture. Sorry, but technically they can make that look like someone else. So when you get a call and you hear the voice of your loved one, great. But if it looks like a picture of someone you maybe should know, it's not a voice you're familiar with, then you're going to just wait a second and see what they say. If you're at all concerned, say, look, I need to call you back. Let me look up your number online or in my address book and I'll call you right back. That solves it, right? So a little caution there. The second is that email addresses can be spoofed. So when you get an email, you look at the return address, they can spoof the picture, they can spoof the name, they can change the reply to address, so it goes to a different address. So don't assume just because it says it came from Mark L or Mark Leavitt that it's from me if the rest of it doesn't make sense. If I send you an email that says I need a gift card because you won a sweepstakes, your antenna should go up. You can, in this case, unlike caller ID where the answer is call them back, in this case there's a tiny, miserably tiny little arrow in this email client. If you click that tiny arrow, it will show you more about the address. And when you see that it's Mark Leavitt spelled the wrong way, or that the reply to address is different than the one who sent it to you, then you should begin getting suspicious. Then the third scoop is that buttons and links and attachments in the email can be faked. So it may say something innocent, click here to view this fax online. But in this case, you can hover. Again, watch out, don't click, hover. So if you're on a desktop computer, you just move your mouse smoothly over it, don't click it. And in the case of a desktop computer, your browser will show down, look at the bottom there. show you where that button goes. This one, gee, it sounds good, efaxhosting.com, but it's also at Mail.ru 382, which is a Russian address. Probably don't want to go there. So the only problem is smartphones, they don't have a hover because it's a touch screen. And so it's a long press on a smartphone, but I don't like to do it. So if it's suspicious, I don't open it on my phone. I wait till I get to the computer and I can hover over it. Frankly, your smartphones are really highly vulnerable to spoofing, so be careful. And the fourth spoof is like a website. You can change the address a little bit. So if you look on the right here, it's WLLOvillage.org, but I spelled out Willow, which your brain probably wouldn't pick that up and worry about it very much at all, but that's what they do. They use tricks like that. And in fact, every large business and bank has found that people have bought up all the addresses that are misspelled. US Bank with BANC, or Microsoft.com with M1, CROSOFT.com. And they actually have to try to buy up all these possible mistypes to keep people from going to a spoof site. So those are the four technological spoofs. Okay, remember, can't trust caller ID, can't trust the address of an email if other things don't make sense. Be careful about clicking on any link, button, or attachment, float over it and hover if you can. And when you're at a website, if something doesn't seem right, look at that address bar, okay? Let me pause for a second. Any questions on this so far? Good, okay. Now, how do we deal with this human quality issue? How do we tune our alarm system? You guys don't know me real well, but I went to medical school where you do it in 2 years instead of 4.
Wow.
And we used a lot of mnemonics where you have, letters and abbreviations so you can remember the nerves and the muscles. So I'm like the world's best mnemonic composer. So my scoring system for spam is the vowels A-E-I-O-U. So think about this. There's something that's trying to get your attention. It's an email that stands out. You won a sweepstakes. It's triggering an emotion. That makes me afraid, or that makes me excited. I'm going to win $1 million. Oh, this looks really interesting. I want to know more. So emotion. And then they're either looking for identification, like a password, a verification, a PIN code, or an online payment. Sometimes both at once, sometimes neither, because that comes later in the scam. And then there's something unusual or weird or odd or unexpected about this request. So I have this sort of filter going all the time, and sometimes you only get the first couple or the first few, but be alert to that. Let's do some examples. So first is spam. Now we all get spam, but our email system often filters it out. So I've shown you my spam box. The characteristic of spam is it's not personalized. They don't really know who you are. Now, if you look at my spam, they seem to know I'm a guy, and they seem to know I'm older because they're asking about tinnitus and hearing assistance, and knee candy restores your cartilage. I don't think anyone's clicking on these, but these go out in such volume that they actually have some success. So here's an interesting fact. When you look at these, you say, who would click on this? Who would click on Ukrainians who are seeking true love or seeking for true love, especially nowadays? And what we've learned is this is intentional. It filters out people who are wise to it, who might lead them on and help them get prosecuted, so that only people who just don't think about this stuff answer it. So it's literally a filter to exclude people who aren't vulnerable. I think that's kind of sad, but that's the way it is. So you're probably not going to answer much spam. Let's get a little tougher. Next is phishing. This is stuff that seems to make sense and is addressed to you. So this is telling someone, me, that there's a problem with Apple FaceTime, which is a bona fide app on your iPhone so that you can do video with people. Got an official looking logo. There's a button to click. And notice this website will be available for 72 hours. That's urgency. So that's one of those emotions it's triggering. So I've got fear, someone's compromised with me. I've got urgency, you better click this now. Appeal to authority, it looks realistic. So this is a pretty phishing email. Again, you hover over that button and you'll see it doesn't go where you think. This is the most famous and world-changing phishing email in recent history, the one that went to John Podesta and tricked him. It looked like it came from Google saying someone's compromised your password, click here so you can change your password. Took him to a fake site that looked just like Google, where it said, put in your current password, now put in your new. What it did was stole his current password and exposed all of his email. So spear phishing is when it's a specific person they're targeting and they'll put in all the effort necessary to understand that person. I think none of us is famous enough to get spear phished. Then there's scareware. Scareware is the one that says your computer is infected. And a lot of times this is a browser pop-up. So you're on the internet, you're going to a website, and suddenly a pop-up appears. It looks like it's a message from your computer's operating system, from Windows or your Mac, but it's not. It's really just a browser pop-up window, and it says you've got a virus. In this case, they're saying to call a number. There we go. In this case, it's I can assure you, once you call that person, they're going to want your credit card number so that they can clear the virus, or they're going to want to dial into your computer to fix it, giving them remote access. And that's one of the worst things you can have happen to you, is giving remote access to a scammer. This triggers all the AEIOU. You know, they're getting my attention. There's an emotion being triggered. I don't know what's going on. It's unknown, and they're going to want some identity and some online payment. Let's spend a minute on this, which is called the AFFINITY scam. And these are pretty effective. So what happens is the scammer needs to know your in-group, like a group of people that you know. So if somehow they've got the email of one of our members, and that member has mailing lists of people on this team or that committee, they'll then send an email to those people that looks like it comes from that committee, that community member. And these are really tempting. They come from sort of a known friend. And this happened just a few days ago. And I answered the first one. It said, hey, sorry to bother you, order on Amazon. Well, I do tech support, and some of our members can't get online and they may need to buy a medication. I'm gonna answer this. I said, yes, I do Amazon. How can I help? You can see my answer. The next email is where the alarm went off. Good to hear from you. I've been trying to purchase a $200 Amazon gift card. It's like, oh, sorry. But it says they're having issues charging my credit card. So could you buy it for me and I'll pay you back? I didn't fall for that email, but I did answer the first one. So affinity scams, they're sneaky. And they also delay the ask. Have you noticed? Engage a couple times and build your confidence. And then the ask comes once you've started to trust them a little bit. I don't know how popular these are, but to have one personally come in and attack us is sort of bracing. I'm just going to quickly list the other online scams in case you see one, or maybe someone you know or you're helping to take care of is experiencing one. There's the government payment demand. There'll be an email or a call that says, this is the IRS. You underpaid your taxes last year. It's going to court. We sent you a notice, didn't you get it? We're going to need you to make a payment now. It could be the DMV, it could be the state. It's basically a government payment. The government doesn't use email. They use snail mail. And by the way, you can get it in snail mail too, but that's not what this seminar is about. But it'd be very rare to get an email from the government with a payment demand. Same goes for your utilities. You know, we're going to cut off your cable TV, your phone. They don't use email for that. You'll get a letter in the mail. But these are successful all the time. Then there's the mystery relative, and in our case, it's the mystery grandchild who we didn't know we had, and they're in a jail in Mexico and they need bail, something like that. And they may engage a little bit. And something I should point out here is all of us have a life online and people can learn about us. And I actually recently saw one of these scams on Nextdoor. They sent it to a person who said, I'm trying to contact your neighbor. And they had looked at this person's website and they could see she's a this, she's a that, and included those features in the mail. So it looks like they know you or that they know your friend. Can be pretty insidious. There's the sweepstakes lottery. You know, you won $1 million, but we need $200 to FedEx it to you. There's a lot of scams around online marketplaces like Craigslist and Facebook, both sides. So the people list some things like, hi, I'm selling a Mazda Miata and I need it fast, so I'll sell it for, you know, $5,000. It's worth $20,000. And you answer, and then it starts like, well, I can hold it for you for $200. And then there's the other side where you're selling something. You're selling a printer for $50 and someone answers and says, yes, and then they'll find a way that you need to pay something so that they can come and get it or give them some kind of ID. So be careful with shopping sites and marketplace sites. They're kind of a hotbed of these scams. Question or just background notes? Background notes. Okay. So what do? You probably already know this, but let's just go through it quickly and then we'll do some practice. So first of all, don't worry. You don't have to report every incoming scam. And in fact, even if you report it, it isn't going to be pursued. So just ignore it, delete it. You could, if you see an affinity scam, especially like me as the tech person, I might want to warn my group, but don't forward the email. Say, did you get this? And forward, because then you're like spreading the virus. Warn the group, you know, sort of quote what was in it and let them know. And once you see that 2 or 3 others got it, and you know it's bogus. You know, if 3 people in our committee got asked to buy a gift card, you know it is, and that settles it right there. If you've shared a single password, just change that password immediately. Log in. If you can't log in, then you've got a problem and you need to contact the provider of your service. But if you can get in, change that password. It doesn't have to go further than that. But if the scammer accessed the computer in one of these online remote support deals, you have a worse problem. Because they can come back into that computer as long as it's turned on. So you really need to have the computer scanned for viruses and change all your passwords in that order. Don't change your passwords before you've checked for viruses, and you probably need help in that case. If you bought a gift card, hey, no worries, just keep the gift card and buy yourself something. Don't send the numbers. If you send a check, you know, you can go to the bank and stop it, although they charge a ridiculous amount. PayPal and credit cards have fraud guarantees. You can contact the fraud department and literally get back the payment. But the worst thing is a bank wire, Venmo, or Zelle. Those are instant, and you generally can't recover that money. And the worst high dollar scams are happening that way. If the amount's substantial, I would report it. I've given you a link here. The Internet Crime Complaint, ic3.gov is one place. Although there's, you know, the FBI and the state and the city police generally, they're not set up to deal with this. So you generally have to do it at the state or federal level, but it may or may not help. So now a few ways to learn more, but first I want us to take a quiz together. So we're going to practice. Google has a really good phishing quiz online, and we'll take that, and I'm going to have volunteers just for fun. And then I've included a link in all this. We're going to find a way to put this online for you. New York Times had a really good article on how to secure your PC that just came out recently, and they have one for the Mac too. There's another interesting site where you can check if your email has been affected by a breach, and I'm going to demonstrate that in a minute. And then I'll show you this Federal Information Center on scams. Let's take the phishing quiz together. So let me see if we can make this work. So we'll make up a name here. I'll call myself Joe at google.com. So these are bogus. It's just going to display stuff. Okay, who volunteers for the first one? I can't see you all. Come on, just be a sport.
Well, I have a Mac, so I can't do it if it's for PCs.
Oh, no, you just have to look at this on screen.
Oh, okay. I'd be fine to volunteer.
By speaking up, you are now, yes, you are now our volunteer. So just take a look at this.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think this is likely to be real? You Looks like someone sent a department budget, and what would you do?
Well, I would check the name of the sender.
Okay, so it's
First.
Luke Johnson, that's someone you know.
That's somebody I know.
Yep.
Okay, then I would check the email address.
Still says Luke Johnson.
Yeah. And what about, I'm sorry, I'm pointing at the screen here. Luke Johnson's address, the Gmail.
That's.
Oh, I see. So that's down there.
Hopefully
Okay.
that's showing. I click that tiny arrow and it's Luke Johnson, and it says Luke.json8000, which may or may not be his actual address. I honestly don't know.
Right.
But the other trick here is you want to hover over this button without clicking it. And hopefully you can all see down in the lower left corner, at the browser status bar says, it looks like drive.google.com, which is safe, but it's not. It's drive-google.com. It's a pretty good spoof, but it's a spoof.
Ooh.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted you to say wow. You look at the part before the .com, and if it's Microsoft.com, it's probably okay, or drive.google, but drive-google is a spoof. So
Right.
this is phishing, and Google says correct, and then you say show me, and they show you that if you mouse over the link, you see. Okay, who's my volunteer for this one? Okay, nobody volunteered. Maybe the volunteer ID isn't so good. So this is a fax that's coming to me, and it says you click to view the fax. Let's look at the address. It comes from some company called No Reply, which is common, at efax.com.
There you go.
Fax is usually spelled with an X. So let's float over this. And again, look down in the status bar, and it's efax.hosting.com.mailru382.co.
Russian. Yeah.
It's Russia, it could be almost anything. So that's phishing. Yes. Okay, next. Okay, hey, look, it's from Terry Kramer, TK. To me, and it says, I just found a photo of you. And, well, I want to see that. I'm excited because I want to make sure it's a good photo, right? It's just a photo. Well, when you float over it again, and this one, notice it's drive.google.com, which sounds good, but it keeps going. Download-phono.sytez.net. No. So that's phishing also. And how about this? Dropbox says I'm out of storage, and if I click here, I can upgrade my Dropbox. What should I do? Well, let's look at the address. So it comes from dropboxmail.com. So I don't know if that's real or not. I mean, dropbox.com I know is Dropbox, but I'm not sure about dropboxmail.com. Let's float over this. And that does go to www.dropbox.com, which I know is their address, and then it's just /by. Anything after that slash is okay. It's the stuff after the HTTPS, before the next slash, that's the address. And that looks real. And so I think it's legitimate, and Google says correct. Okay. Now, truth be told, I took this quiz before so that I wouldn't screw up in front of you. So just to not be spoofing you guys, okay? Okay, here's from Sharon Mosley at Westmount Day School. And it is Sharon Mosley at Westmount Day School. And it's the 2022 financial, and it's called 2022 FAR.PDF. What do you think? And when I float over this, it doesn't show me anything else because a PDF attachment, as opposed to a button or a link, doesn't reveal where it's coming from. What would you do? What do you think?
Well, I had this happen at work, and it was a phishing attack. So I would label it phishing because I can't verify it.
Good point, Lori. And this is indeed the trick in this case, is that the Westmount Day School isn't isn't this the site? It's called Westmount School. They just sort of snuck that day in. So sure enough, it is a phishing, and it's a trick. So you say, show me, and it says the address is not quite right. I think this is a real insidious one.
Yeah.
Close.
That could trick almost anyone if they, now, I think it's fair to say that in the previous one, they had some knowledge. So to me, that's an affinity scam. Someone in the group, somehow their email leaked out or their computer got compromised, so they knew that they were about to send in a budget, who the names were, and things like that. Okay, here's something. It looks like it's from Google, and it says someone has your password. Boy, this sounds like that, the one that got John Podesta. So I'm not going to do the quiz. Let's open the address. It comes from no reply at google.support. Probably okay. Let's float over this. Wait a minute. myaccount.google.com security staying page .ml-security.o. No. No. Okay. Phishing. Correct. It's a trick. Okay. So we're smarter than John Podesta. Here's another one. Government-backed attackers may be trying to steal your password. And you float over this to change the password. And actually, that one is that's really clever that they've used tinyurl.com. So I think this is phishing too. Very insidious. Yep, it's a real warning, but links to a fake login page. Okay, so it gets awfully sophisticated.
Yeah.
And here's this is the last one we'll do. And this is, hi Joe. It looks like it comes from Google. It's a TripIt wants to view your email messages and settings. Now, TripIt is some kind of trip planner. Now, if you haven't joined TripIt, just erase it. But if you do belong to TripIt, or you recently signed up for TripIt, maybe it's real. So let's, now notice this is a pop-up. It's not an email. So if we float over this, nothing's showing up. But if we click it, it tells you where it goes. It looks like it's probably bona fide. I would only do this if I had recently signed up for TripIt and I made sure everything was correctly spelled. I think it's legitimate and says it is. Okay. So, and oh, they're also saying you could have clicked, too late, I can't go back. Yeah. You could have clicked that little information button. Anyway, enough of that. So there's one other site I'll show you quickly, and then questions, okay? It's called monitor.firefox.com. And are you all seeing this Firefox monitor? So if you put in your email address, and this is real, make sure you've gone to monitor.firefox.com. It will tell you all the breaches that affected your email address. So I have, I don't want to expose my email address, or well, I guess let's do markl@willowvillage.org, which is okay. And I just check for breaches, and there's none. We haven't had any data breaches in our Willow Village. But if I'll put in my wife's address. She's not in the room. Don't tell. It's going to be recorded.
Okay.
Sworn to secrecy. Holy cow. So someone scraped the LinkedIn data in 2021. Adobe, there was a breach, but that was in 2013. So this is actually, I need to know that she's changed her password after October. So this is actually kind of handy. And it's bona fide. As long as you don't click on the little box that says alert. If you click alert me to new breaches, you'll get emails from them, which is not bad. But as long as you don't click that, it's a one-time thing and they check. So there's just one other kind of interesting way. I think it's time for me to stop and take questions. So let's stop the share and take questions, if you have any.
You are going to make these links that you've available so we can.
Yeah, we need to figure out. So we're recording the presentation, so we'll have that available, but then you'd have to kind of read it and copy it. So we'll find a way to do this. We could send out an email to the same group that was invited, and that could have a link to the presentation online, or at least to the resource pages. So yes, we will. So don't worry about trying to write it down right now.
Okay. My notes are pretty hard to read.
Yeah,
This
no,
is what I've taken so far, a whole page here.
and you might mistype one letter and take it to a scam site, and then we'll just feel terrible.
And then, there you go.
Right. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah,
No. Sorry.
Okay.
Karen,
Who's next?
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of these strange emails, and I tend to go to the website. I never click on anything. So if I get one from UPS, My Choice, which I just got this morning about a failed delivery that looks suspicious, I just go to UPS My Choice, the website. It's really tedious, but there's no other way to avoid it, is there?
So that's a good question. So you have signed up for UPS My Choice?
No.
Oh, you never signed up for it with UPS?
No, I mean, I get
all
everything
scams.
by, it is phishing, and then,
All scams just delete, delete, delete.
yeah,
UPS has a service called My Choice. You sign up, and then you get an email when you get a delivery. But if you don't sign up for that, I don't believe you should be getting those. So you should just.
I see. And because I'm without my real laptop, I'm using an iPad, so I can't really do any hovering.
Yes,
I'm not sure if it's,
you have to do a long press on the iPad, and it's too easy to accidentally.
yeah, that's what I was
So
worried about.
considered
Yeah.
more dangerous. Although the iPad is less susceptible to viruses than a desktop or computer, so that kind of balances it out. But
Right.
I would be, yeah, if you didn't sign up for UPS My Choice, then delete them. And you can set a filter in your email to just not even let those go in your inbox.
Right.
So
Okay.
help you do that. If you need help doing it, we could do a support session, show you how to set up. When you're just persistently getting it from someone you just don't want to hear, and you've unsubscribed and it's still coming, just use a filter to get rid of them.
All right. Maybe I have signed up for My Choice, because I always get emails when I've had things delivered. But
okay.
it never said My Choice in the address bar at the top.
That's definitely a way they would scam things that a lot of people use. FedEx, UPS, fax, our favorite fake identities for the scammers.
Right. I get you.
Yes.
Well, thank you for that. That's
Okay. Yes.
useful.
Other questions?
So Mark, Mark,
Yes. Lois.
we have used NordVPN for quite some time. How safe are we from these things if NordVPN is engaged? Will we still get these, or will they be filtered out?
So I'm not super familiar with NordVPN. What that's doing is protecting the message in transit so that people can't tap into it or see where you're surfing. So I think that's an excellent means of security. But whether it has an email spam filter, I don't know. I know that Gmail has a spam filter, which I don't own any stock in Google, but it's really good. I get 10 or 20 spams a day, and they never make it into my inbox. I can't comment on Comcast and Microsoft Mail and others, but the Google Mail is doing a good job on spam. And our WLLO Village Google Workspace, we've had no breaches, and I don't see spam coming in, except this recent, which wasn't spam. It was a affinity attack. So it's protecting you, but I'm not sure it's protecting you against a suspicious email. If you're able to get email from people, I think they can still get in, but I can't say for sure.
I would like to share 3 things that I do that are not perfect, but that have helped me. Is I have a separate email that I use when I order things online, so I don't use my main email. I also have a Google phone number, which is different from my main phone number, which I give out now, and so I can see on that. And then the third thing I use is often when I sign up for something, or order something online, or even if I sign up, I do it in my dog's name. So if it comes in for Riley, I mean, I do so few, if I order her dog food or I order something, you know, something that I'm expecting, but if I get these other things, dear Riley, then I know that, you know, that is probably a scam or fictitious. And now those are easy to set up and easy to do and don't cost me anything except remembering, you know, that to use them.
Those are excellent ideas. The junk email address, when you're buying something or doing something online and you don't want to hear from them, then you use this sort of, in your case, it's a pet, but you can just make one up too. And I think that's a great idea. You're basically using spoofing back at the spoofer.
Oh, that's good.
An excellent idea. The other important thing I should have mentioned is two-factor authentication.
Yes.
So on your important accounts, your bank, your credit card, your brokerage, turn it on, which means there's an extra nuisance. When you try to log in, it will text you a number at your phone, and you've got to put in that number. And unless you've lost your phone, by the way, we should talk about that for a moment in terms of stolen phones, huge, terrible problem. That makes those safer. So I use those on bank accounts.
What about finger login or facial recognition? I use those. You don't like those?
I don't know. They say that you can take a picture of the face and hold it in front of the, you know, they could get a picture of you online and hold it in front of the camera of the iPad. I think it's still an unknown. And the same goes for the fingerprint. The fingerprint, to me, most often it's a nuisance, because if I've eaten jam and I try to do it, it doesn't, and I'm always eating something good. So I don't know what to make of a fingerprint. I'm undecided on fingerprints. Susan.
Yes, my daughter installed a Bitwarden, which I use to go onto a website, and then it is, I guess, automatically safeguarded with a very, very long password. But all my accounts for those things, all I need is one password, and then it evidently uses the longer one to hide whatever that is. It's a two-step, I guess.
Well, so Bitwarden is a password manager.
Yes.
I use one too. I use LastPass, which is another one. And they're good because they let you use long, complicated passwords that you would have a lot of trouble typing in. So that protects you against password guessing, where, you know, they use the password, the name of their pet. Or you wouldn't believe how many people use the word password for password. 1, 2, 3, 4, or let me in. So there's an online dictionary of popular passwords that the scammers use to try to crack. So it solves that problem by giving you complex passwords. That one password that you use to get into Bitwarden, if anyone ever gets that, you're in big trouble, or if you forget it. So just be very careful about that. But it does help keep you from reusing passwords and using simple passwords. So I do recommend using password managers on your computer.
So Mark, what about, you know, we have been using city cards because they have the virtual numbers, and that gives us a sense of security, but is that a false sense of security?
You're talking about the ones, it's a payment system where you just hold it against there's no number and you just hold it against the device in order to.
Oh, no, this is where you set up a fake number based on your real number, and it's only theoretically only supposed to be usable for one vendor. So if another vendor gets that credit card number and you've used it already, they can't get it because they're a different name.
That's a good idea. Yeah, that's I haven't ever used that or seen it, but that protects you against vendor breaches where the number gets stolen from the vendor. The good news on credit cards is they actually do protect you from fraud. So if you are part of a credit card fraud, in their contract, they're going to reimburse you for that, but it still gives you more peace of mind, especially when you're buying from flaky, unknown vendors, to not be giving them the number. So I think that's really good.
And how safe should we feel if we're trying to do everything we can through PayPal or Apple Pay to the extent possible? How secure are those?
PayPal is really pretty secure. And I don't know too much about Apple Pay, but I don't think they've had serious breaches either. Okay. So I think those are probably really good ways to go. And PayPal has the fraud protection. So if there's a fraud, even though they've already made the payment, they'll get it back from the vendor. Now, I think Susan had another question. Or
Yes, what about the security in using your debit card? Do banks reimburse you? Is there any safety?
nope. That's
Right.
like a wire transfer.
Okay,
More safety than a credit card.
so that's not really something you should be.
No, we use it, for example, let's say we're auto paying our natural gas bill, right? And we don't want it on the credit card because if we don't use the credit card in a month, I don't want the $100 natural gas bill making us do a payment or write a check. So I like auto pay, and the debit card makes that easier on you. And if it's the utility, somebody you trust, then I think it's okay. But not for the online vendor that you're buying an Etsy gadget from. Then I like the virtual card or a credit card, but I wouldn't, or PayPal, but not a debit card.
Okay.
And then we're out of the online. This is more sort of general security, but that's sort of I'm not an expert in just general financial security, but
Mhm.
that's what I would do. Okay, did I miss any questions? All right, we'll find a way to put this online so that you can, I think the quiz may change each time. I'm not sure, but if you want to play with that quiz, try it yourself and actually float over it, or try it on your tablet or phone. That could be very interesting to get some experience.
So one thing I've learned from my from classes like this that we didn't talk about today is that at the end of the day, for sure, I close out of all my accounts and then I close down my computer. I just don't leave it running, and I even put it on airplane mode, and that's what security experts have told me to do. And I don't understand how people can get into my computer if I walk away from it and leave it overnight. But supposedly you leave back doors open. So for whatever that's worth, it certainly doesn't cost anything other than just remembering to do it. So
that's really good. That's extra safe because if you leave and I'm guilty of leaving my laptop running. If someone steals a laptop, physically steals it and it's running, and you're using Bitwarden, by the way, or LastPass, if your passwords are all in, everything's memorized and it's in there, so they can go to town on it. So it's a really nice idea. We do it for leaving town or going on any kind of trip. The computers all get shut down. And yes, technically they could take out the hard disk and try to get into the data. It's really very difficult. And generally those kind of thefts aren't technical experts. Those are just quick money things. So it's a good idea to shut it down. Definitely don't leave it running in your car somewhere or something like that. Phones are a special.
in your car if you could help it, yeah, because
Phones are just a special problem, and I don't know. We have them in our pockets, but they seem like they're so easy to lose, and we put our banking apps on them and Venmo, and it scares me. It worries me.
Yeah, I agree. Well, the scams or the texts that I get on my phone, they've lessened now, but there's you can't do anything about them. You just have to delete them. They're just annoying, but
we can talk for a moment. There's actually a failure of our regulatory system. So first of all,
among others.
emails could have been made secure with proven identity. And it wasn't at the start because it was a bunch of nerds playing around. And we haven't added that. The same goes for caller ID. That could have been fixed, where you can't spoof a caller ID, but too much money is being made from direct marketing and things like that. So it's really a regulatory failure, but this isn't a political call. But if we all want to get together and protest and make the tech companies close these holes, we can try, but probably isn't going to happen. So we just have to defend ourselves as best we can.
I was going to say, most of my friends in the last 5 years who've had their emails stolen, their accounts, hacked, have had Comcast accounts. And that's just anecdotal. I haven't, I don't have any real data proof, but I just would be, I have a Comcast account because I have a Comcast, account. And so they make me have an email, but I I probably should go in and look at it every once in a while and, you know, delete it or whatever, but, or delete emails, but.
It's probably okay to just have it sitting there, but I agree with you. What I'm not sure is whether it's that Comcast is more vulnerable or that people who don't know how to go set up a Google email account or Microsoft email account are just less knowledgeable and are the ones getting hacked. But yeah, you're definitely right. People that are using the one that came with their cable modem subscription and things are having greater problems. And once they get that one account, here's the problem. You know, your bank account, you've got this super long password, right? And so it's highly secure, but the way you reset it, if you forget it, is through your email. So they will attempt to log in your bank account, can't guess the passwords, they'll click reset.
Yeah.
So then the bank will send you an email saying, we understand you want to reset your password, click here. If they can get into your email, they will reset the bank account to their email now, and they've got access to your bank account. Now, generally the bank's suspicious and wants something else, like your mother's maiden name. Well, you got your genealogy online, so they've got your mother's maiden name, or where did you grow up? Well, that's online. So it's really, it's a difficult environment.
It is. That's, I hadn't thought about that. The other thing I find that people who have AOL accounts, I'm always nervous about when they send me an email. I don't want to engage with AOL. It seems like they're just, I don't know, they don't have any security. They're so old.
Now we're talking about email snobbery, which we all fall prey to.
Oh, I hope you don't have AOL. I don't.
I don't, and thank you for saying it, because when I see it's a Comcast, I say this person needs extra help and protection. You're absolutely right. And actually, in our WLLO Village, we have our WLLO Village email accounts. We get a warning when it comes from something outside of WLLO Village. It says external. This is coming from outside. I can't be sure, so it makes us pause for a moment. So our internal email is sort of business class security using the Google Workspace, which gives us a little breathing space. But when some of our volunteers don't use it, and it's easier to just use their Comcast account, we are exposing ourselves. And that is what happened in that recent Affinity scam. Susan?
I was one of those people, I think it's almost 2 years ago, that had my Comcast account breached. But I've had that account for so long, I was worried that people who had that would not be able to reach me. So I think my daughter and son-in-law set it up where they are transferred to my Gmail account, but is that safe?
That's a good idea. That's part of the play, is if they get you use their free email, once everyone uses that as an address, you can't leave. It's part of the revenue play for Comcast and all of the big internet companies. Having it forwarded is fine. That lets you get your new email, but those emails are vulnerable. So you have to be extra careful with the ones that are getting forwarded. The first one comes in and say, don't send that to me anymore. Here's my new address. I'm not going to be answering that within 3 or 6 months.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's probably more than enough. I appreciate your time. My knowledge of this is imperfect, and the scams are evolving all the time. So just because I didn't list it doesn't mean it's not a problem. And I'm here for tech support. If you see something strange, just, you know, ask me about it.
Get in touch with you. How do we get in touch with you?
WLLOvillage.org.
Okay, just WLLO Village. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have a hotline?
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you so much. Wonderful presentation.
Yes,
Everybody-
excellent help. Thank you.
Stay safe.
Yeah, this is so helpful.
All right. Bye-bye.